Hey guys, Saravanan Ganesh here. In this video, I'm going to go over my story, how I got started in SEO, even a bit earlier, how I got started in personal development and then SEO. More importantly, lessons learned along the way. I love listening to stories. I listen to podcasts all the time, and I just love listening to people who got from where they were to where they, got to success. Not saying that I'm successful or anything, but just wanted to share my story, some crazy stories as I was planning for this mastermind, and I was going back to 2014-15 time when I first got involved with online marketing, internet marketing, SEO. I started remembering all these crazy stories. Looking back in hindsight, they were interesting and funny. But at that time, going through the situation, it was crazy. Some of it were frightening. Some of it were pretty phenomenal. So I thought it would be interesting. I prepared some slides. You're welcome to skip this, go straight to the lessons. But if you want to have, just hang on and be ready for the ride, I'm going to share my screen. Prepare some slides. So my story, how I got started in SEO, some lessons learned along the way. For those of you who don't know, I am originally from the country of Sri Lanka. It's a small island, very close to India. When I was 4 years old, my parents, my family, my brother and sister, we moved from Sri Lanka. I was born here in Jaffna, the northern part of Sri Lanka. We moved to India, to the city called Chennai. That's where I pretty much grew up from the age of 4 to 22. I went to university in a different city called Coimbatore. But anyways, age 22 in 2002, I came to USA to pursue my master's in computer engineering, University of Michigan. Graduated, worked in Ford Motor Company, General Motors, few other companies, Blue Cross Blue Shield, as a computer engineer. Some of you may know my story. Though I was making decent money at job and 9 to 5 and just saying yes sir to a boss and sitting in a cubicle and going through office politics was just not for me. So in 2014, I stumbled into the world of SEO, internet marketing. And I'll go into detail a little bit later on how I got into SEO. 4 years later, I left my job, free man, right? That's what you think, you're a free man. Got into client SEO and things like that. But around the same time, I also started my Facebook group, my SEO course, Rank and Rent course. So over time, guys, in my journey, not just in business, entrepreneurship, internet marketing, but my journey in personal development, if you will, over time, I realized there are patterns to everything, right? I could see a pattern in how my life, my experiences have shaped up. I could see patterns in success, in SEO, in stock trading, in business, in relationships, in every single thing. Once you start seeing patterns, like if you do this, and this is what happens. The economy goes up and down. We know that every 8 to 10 years there's a recession, but so is very similar in your personal life also, right? It is very similar in your day-to-day life with your kids. And so looking back, I see a pattern, at least in me, I don't know about others, that every time I had a failure, some of my biggest victories have come from my biggest failures. And I have some interesting stories I'll go into, right? And I learned that if you dig deep, good things come out of it. Now, you don't need to know everything about everything when you get started. You don't need to know the how. You don't need to know everything when you get started. All you need to know, that's what I realized, is that you take the first step and then you're committed, right? If you write out the why you're going to do something that you want to do, financial freedom, $10,000 a month, $5,000 a month in passive income, whatever your goal is, if you write it down, leave the how to the universe, because the universe will deliver something much better than what your limited mind can envision. I'm going to give you examples of stories, okay? What do I mean by that? So 2002 timeframe, I did not want to come to the US. Once I finished my engineering bachelor's degree in India, I wanted to go to Australia because a lot of my family, my brother, my parents are now there. A lot of my cousins are still in Australia. They were in Australia at that time. And so I applied and I got admission to Masters in Computer Engineering in a couple of universities in Australia, University of New South Wales and Monash University. And I was excited. But lo and behold, at that time, for whatever reason, my student visa was denied, right? Australia pretty much said, sorry, no visa. And so I was all set to go to Australia after graduation, and now I was left holding nothing. I had nothing. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't get a job in India because technically I was a Sri Lankan citizen living in India. That's a whole different story in itself. So I spent the next year, pretty much 1 year of my life, preparing for exams like GRE, the graduate exam here, TOEFL, all these different exams to apply to graduate school in the USA. And that time it looked like, oh my God, I'm wasting my time, right? 1 year, my classmates, my friends, they were all in jobs or they already started master's degree in different countries. And here I was just spinning the wheels, doing nothing, sitting at home and preparing for exams. But in that 1 year, I had to go 4 different times from India to Sri Lanka for various reasons. Actually, 4 different times trying to get visas to different country. I had to go a couple of times to Sri Lanka to apply for Australian visa in the Australian embassy. Then once that was denied, I had to go a couple of times to Sri Lanka from India. So every time I would fly, I had to go to apply to US embassy for the US visa, right? And I finally got the US visa, a student visa to come and study here in the US. But in that 1 year is when I met my wife. Every time I went there, my wife's parents were family friends of my parents. And so I had to, pretty much they would, I had to stay with them, kind of board with them, if you will. And that's how I met my wife. And every time I went there, I started, getting to know her, things like that. And long story short, she's my wife now. We have 2 kids, things like that, right? So I couldn't have planned all this. If I had just gone to Australia, life would have been different, right? I would never have met my current wife, right? My wife, I guess, sorry. So 2009, 2010, now fast forward, we're both married. I had just graduated, just newly married. She's an accountant by background. I'm in the IT engineering field. The recession hits and both of us lose our job pretty much the same week, the same month, the same week. We both lose our jobs. And for the next 8 months in 2009, 2010 timeframe, we both had no jobs. We ran out of all our savings, the meager savings we had. We racked up credit cards like crazy. We're literally down to the last penny. My wife was at home. She could not even get a part-time job. And I was working in Subway part-time as a sandwich artist. A Subway sandwich artist, for those of you who don't know, is somebody who just rolls sandwiches. I was working there for like $5.50 an hour plus a free sandwich, Subway sandwich, which I would bring home and share half with my wife, right? Literally, I was like, what do I do next month? Another month, we did not have a penny. We'd probably have to, go back to Sri Lanka because that's where my citizenship at that time was Sri Lanka. I did not even have any other citizenship. And be there. So we did not know what to do. So around that time, I remember this was August 2010, if I'm not wrong. I came across this book called Maximum Achievement by Brian Tracy. I love that book. I even, a couple of months ago, I was rereading that book again. And he actually walks through a 12-step process about goal setting and goal achieving. And I started doing that. And as part of that book and a few other books I was reading, I stumbled upon something called the feeling of your wish fulfilled. So not just writing down your goals, but every morning visualize your goal, your wish, as if it was already fulfilled and how you would feel if it was already fulfilled. So August 2010, once I understood this, I remember telling my wife, hey, let's visualize that we are going to Sri Lanka in December. So 4 months from now on a trip to Sri Lanka, right? Remember, we had not $1 to our name that time. Credit cards maxed out, did not know what to do. And I was saying, let's visualize, imagine every day that, we are flying to Sri Lanka, for a 1 month vacation for Christmas and having a good time. And then in August, my wife gets a job. And that time we had one car. And I would drive my wife to her job, drop her off, and then go and work in the Subway sandwich shop in Subway as a sandwich artist. And every day for about a couple of weeks, I remember when I'm driving my wife to her work, to her job, I would say as we passed the Starbucks near my home, I would literally tell her, hey, let's imagine this Starbucks as one of the bakeries near your home in Sri Lanka, because that was a favorite bakery of mine. I love to go and have the cakes and the chicken pastries and stuff like that, right? And I would say, just let's visualize and just imagine. And so as we drive past Starbucks, we did not even go into Starbucks and smell the aroma of coffee beans. We're just driving past in traffic, and I would say, oh my God, we're just driving into the bakery shop. We're eating those fresh bread and the fresh cakes and all the different chicken and lamb, it's called rolls, like different pastries. And we literally would laugh to young kids, if you will, not a dollar to our name, but a dream in our heart, right? And about a week later, almost the end of August, I got a job. And long story short, December, we literally went to Sri Lanka. We both got our jobs in 4 months. We saved up money. We bought flight tickets. We went on a 1 month trip to Sri Lanka. I get down in the airport in Sri Lanka. My wife's brother picks us up in his car. We are driving from the airport to their home. I literally tell him to stop in the bakery. I walk into the bakery. I buy whatever my favorite stuff was, and I literally have tears running down my eyes, to the point that the bakery owner probably thought there's something wrong with this guy. He's either homeless or he's crazy. Like, why is he crying eating a cake, right? That's how it was, right? The feeling of your wish fulfilled, okay? So this is 2010. We come back, 2011, I'm working in a job. I stumble upon Bob Proctor. For those of you who don't know Bob Proctor, I would highly recommend getting his book called Born Rich. It's an amazing book, one of the most impactful books in my life, Born Rich by Bob Proctor. Look him up. Or just go to YouTube and YouTube him and listen to him, right? Almost 2011 to 6 or 7 years, maybe till 2017, 18, every single day, on my way to job and back, every single freaking day, I would listen to a Bob Proctor audio. Maybe 4, 5, 6 days in a year I would have missed it, not listening to Bob Proctor. But every single day I was listening to Bob Proctor, and his concepts started, kind of driving grooves in my mind, if you will, right? Over time, I started believing in different things that he was teaching. So that's 2011. I remember he always says, what you make in a year, you can absolutely make in a month. The only reason that you are not making in a month what you are making in a year is because you do not know how to do it, right? It's not that it's impossible. It's just that you don't know. The only reason you're making $3,000, the only reason you're making, let's say, $30,000 a year and not $30,000 a month is because you just don't know. You're unaware of it, right? Once you become aware, these concepts would drill down into me. It was crazy, right? So anyways, I started digging deep. I got a job. I wanted one job, but I got the other job, things like that. Eventually, I started working in General Motors, where about 3 years later, I stumbled upon SEO. How did I stumble upon SEO? I actually get an email I had signed up to Bob Proctor's newsletter, and I get an email from Bob Proctor Institute. It's now called the Proctor Gallagher Institute, but that time it was Bob Proctor Institute, right? Basically an email saying, hey, if you want to be financially free, attend this webinar. And so I actually attend the webinar. At that time, I was also enrolled in network marketing, and I thought my ticket to freedom was network marketing. But you know how that goes. By the way, my wife and I are still in network marketing. We still do a little bit, love the products and stuff like that. But my ticket to freedom became SEO. So 2014, I get into SEO. Another funny story, this is a webinar. This is so new to me. I had no idea about internet marketing. All I knew was what a website is. I did not even know what SEO is, online marketing. And this gentleman, his name is Mike Long. He actually is doing a webinar, and he's basically showing examples of his students of how people are making $100,000 a month, $30,000 a month, all working from home, into SEO. And I was like, this is alien to me. This is new to me. I've never heard of anyone making $30,000 a month, let alone $100,000 a month, right? So literally, this is what happens. This gentleman's name is Mike Long. Till today, I'm forever indebted to him, right? He does this webinar, and then he says, okay, I'm going to hand it over to my partner who's going to now show you how to make the money, right? And his partner is now talking in the webinar, and literally as the webinar is going on, I Google Mike Long. I find his phone number and I call him. I have hence tried Googling again and finding his phone number. I just cannot find his phone number in Google. But that day in 2014, October, I remember it so vividly. I call up a phone number and Mike Long picks up the phone. He's in the middle of a webinar. His partner is doing the talking and I'm on the phone and he's like, who's this? And I'm like, my name is Saravanan Ganesh. And he's like, who? I'm like, you don't know me. I'm listening to your webinar. I just wanted to see if you're legit, if you're real, if it's true. And he starts laughing and he spends the next 22 minutes with me, just talking to me, and I just drove home the fact that he's legit. He's a real human being. People are making money. I signed up for this $8,000, $7,000 or $8,000 course right away in an installment plan of $600 a month for 12 months, something like that, right? I remember the next day talking to my cousin, who's a pretty big hotshot in IT, and asking him about, online marketing and $30,000 a month income. And he's like, it's a scam. Don't worry about it. But I did not, thank God I trusted a stranger, Mike Long, right? So that's the funny story there. Till today, I can't, if you go Google Mike Long, I don't think you can find his phone number. If you do, let me know, right? So anyway, I get into client SEO. I have my job. I'm hustling. In other videos, I actually show you all this different stuff I was doing and how I hustled to Singapore, selling press releases and things like that, and websites through Thumbtack and all that. This is a whole different story. It's actually a pretty interesting story. Full transparency, I'm being a little bit vulnerable here. I'm just sharing everything. My wife and I, at that time, we have one kid. We were trying for a second kid, and we just, it didn't work. We've been trying for a few months and no second kid. What do you do, right? Just frustrated, stuff like that. And I had just gotten into SEO. We were supposed to go to Florida in December. I had put that money on credit cards in October, getting into this SEO course. So that was canceled. It was a frustration time, if you will. My cousin in Singapore was getting married. Actually, she's from Australia. She was good. Her wedding was in Singapore. We was like, we don't have the money to go there. We'll just send them a gift. But then in February, it's like a month before the wedding, something just hit me. And I was like, okay, I studied all this SEO stuff, right? I'm going to hustle, make the money, and just change the environment of my wife and myself and my kid at that time, one kid. And so I hustled. It's a whole different story on how I went to Thumbtack and I sold websites and I used press release and I made some money. I got a website client for about $4,000, maybe $3,500. I don't remember exactly, around that. Using Thumbtack, I found a contractor in Upwork.com and I paid him, I think, $700. I pocketed like $3,000 profit. I put that much, $3,000, and I bought 3 tickets round trip to Singapore. And I went as a surprise visit to my cousin's wedding. And even now, it's one of the highlights of our life, because it was such a surprise. They didn't expect us. We went there. They laughed. They cried. We laughed, and it was such a good time, right? So again, why am I saying all this? I don't know if I'm boring you guys, but dig deep. Anytime God gives you a problem, remember, you want to change your tests, turn your tests into testimonies. That's exactly what I'm saying. That time it was a big test. We did not know how to have a second baby, right? Did not know how to make money, right? By the way, came back from Singapore and my wife is like, I think I'm pregnant. I have no idea how that happened, honest to God, right? Just a change in environment. Anyway, 2017, I'm happy. Life is going good. I have a full-time job and I have some clients, SEO clients and all that. And I make a trip to Australia. My family, my parents and my brother live in Australia. So I go there in Australia. Middle of the night, pretty much 3 a.m., 4 a.m. in Australia, I get a call, like it keeps ringing for 3 or 4 different times. It's my locksmith client. And he's literally screaming at the other end saying, my maps ranking went down, my calls went down, what is happening? And I'm 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. in Australia, I'm opening up my laptop, figuring out what's happening. Turns out there was a Google update. You know how that goes, right? Had to calm him down. My trip to Australia was supposed to be a good vacation. Those 2, 3, 4 days became a nightmare with this client. And that led me to search for more passive ways of making money, and that led me to Rank and Rent. So remember I said, unexpected failures, some of my biggest victories came from my biggest failures. This is what I'm talking about. So as I'm walking you through my story, is not to say, hey, this is my story, ha ha ha, right? Literally, honest to God, if you dig deep, God will not give you something you cannot handle. That's what I realized. 2021. Okay, I'm big time into crypto, right? I'm actually thinking about starting a crypto newsletter because, hey, I'm making money in crypto. Everybody's just going up and up and up. And then it crashes and I lose money. Okay, I literally lose quite a bit of money. I don't even want to admit how many, right? Tens of thousands of dollars. And that actually got me into, there should be other ways. I didn't want to educate myself and understand this whole trading thing. And that got me into trading. Initially, it was trading crypto. Then it became trading the stock market, different stocks. And now it is trading solely just 1 or 2 stocks, just solely about an hour, hour and a half a day maximum, where I just do a little bit of day trading, either S&P 500, the SPY ETF, or AMD or Apple. That's about it. I trade for about an hour, hour and a half. And why am I saying this? Because in an hour and a half, I make about anywhere from $100 to $300 a day, with just about $1,000 to $1,500 account in my trading account. I don't spend too much time. It's just like I go in, I try to make anywhere from 100 to 300. Sometimes it's 30, sometimes it's 100, sometimes it's $300 a day. 1 hour max, sometimes 1.5 hours a day. That's it, and I'm out. Okay. Again, why? Here is what I'm saying. There are patterns to everything. Once I started putting a couple of years just looking at this one SPY ETF and AMD and Apple, these 3 stocks, I now know them. I'm not saying I know them awesome and I'm making money every day, but an hour a day, I can make a quick couple of $100. And that's my lunch money sometimes to go out for lunch. Just like a game, if you will, a hobby, if you will, however you want to call it. Okay. 2002, last year, I've always wanted to live in Australia, not just Australia. I've always had this idea of taking my family and living in a different country for a couple of months and just like immersing in that culture, right? And so 2022, by the way, this was actually something I heard from Bob Proctor. The first time I heard that you can live in 2 different countries was somebody in Bob Proctor's, one of his webinars. I was like, wow, you can literally live in 2 countries? Okay, wow, that's news. And then last year I was able to do it, even if it was 2 months, just that. Had a great time, spent time with my parents. My kids went to school in Australia. We learned so much about kangaroos and creepy crawly bugs and stuff like that. It was a good time. But on the way back, this is August of 2022, lot of things happened. We missed a flight from Sydney to Los Angeles. Then we had to stay there overnight. Then we had to travel back in economy. The flight got delayed. A lot of crazy things. We arrived in LA, big snowstorm some kind of a storm in the US. Not even sure what it was, August time frame, but there was a lot of flight disruptions. And so 3 days we were traveling in economy class from Sydney to LA to some other city, and then that city to Detroit where I live. And I was like, this is done. If I'm going to travel again, I have to travel business class. And that in the last few months got me into the whole world of business credit cards and travel points, to the point now this year, next month in February, we're flying to Dallas all on points. 1 week in Dallas flight plus 7 days of, I think 6 days, 5 nights and 6 days of hotel on points. April, 8 days, 7 nights hotels, and this is like a suite in Hilton all on points and flying on points. And then now planning a trip to Europe in business class for summer, right? All on points. And that is a whole different world in itself. So why am I saying all of this? Of course, this is my story. As I keep evolving and growing and learning, I want to share this with you. But also remember, anytime, is always, everything happens in life twice. First, it happens, you create it in your mind. Second, it becomes a reality. So the first time I heard someone living in 2 countries, someone was saying that they live 6 months in San Diego, 6 months in Sydney for an endless summer. And I loved that because I'm in Michigan, snow, right? And I was like, you could actually do this. Wow. And literally now I'm in a position I can do that. I heard Bob Proctor say always, hey, what you make in a year, you can make in a month, right? Literally my first year, what I was making in the job, I've been making in a month ever since. Now, my next goal is what I make in a year through SEO, I'm going to make it in a month. That's the next goal, right? And we have plans for that and all that. 7 years after, maybe more than 7 years, right? I think 2011 is when I first stumbled into Bob Proctor. But last year, just before he passed away, I actually had an opportunity to talk to Bob Proctor in one of a private coaching calls. I had to pay for it and was part of his inner circle mentorship. And I asked him a question that was bothering me for a long, long time. And he pretty much looked at me and he answered me. That answer makes so much sense right now, that I'm actually implementing it. But then he also looked at me and said, I don't know what he thought or what went over. He looked at me and said, you know, you need mentorship. Do you have it? I don't know if he saw something in me, or maybe he was just trying to sell his other coach, mentorship program. Who knows, right? But literally, this is something that is a reality for me now. I'm blessed. My wife and I, we love to eat. If there's one thing we splurge on, it's eating. We literally go out and eat on a weekday, and we always see the restaurant. People are like, I hardly ever see a husband and wife or a family, weekday sitting and eating. It's always office colleagues, co-workers, with the badge and things like that coming and eating, right? So anyway, I will leave you with this, guys. This is my story. Didn't mean to bore you guys. Hope you got something out of it. Let me know once you watch it if you really got something out of this. But I will leave you with this. There's one thing you get, create the feeling of your wish fulfilled. It will generate actions consistent with it, and you will attract the goal, right? Remember, leave the how to the universe. The universe will figure out how to deliver. You just write out the why you want it, what you want, right? The universe will actually deliver something a lot more better than what you think, your limited mind can envision, okay? All right, guys, off we go to the races. Next video onwards is all about mind-blowing strategies, techniques, high-level stuff on how to 10x.